Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to today's show. On November 20th this year, the former Secretary General of the CCP Jiang Zemin died. The figure of Jiang Zemin represented a new era that came after the reforms and opening up by Deng Xiaoping. An era of relative openness of China to the outside world, and an era when China's economic development reached new levels, was also an era of the new stability maintenance and total control over Chinese population. Still, if we compare him to the Emperor Xi, China was much more open to the other countries, especially the US and the countries in Europe. So we can say that the death of Jiang Zemin actually represents the end of an era of Deng Xiaoping's reforms. Xi Jinping's insane zero-COVID policies, his support of the common prosperity as the way to develop country. You can just name it common poverty instead, actually. The man is just leading China into the nightmare of planned economy. So what Xi Jinping is doing is a little bit different from how China used to be during Jiang Zemin's era. Don't get me wrong, during these times China was not a free country, but the Chinese people used to have a relative economic freedom at least. The Chinese people could get a job, start a business, and if they were not being involved in politics actively, they probably wouldn't have had any problems. But I'm talking about Han Chinese here. The minorities, like people like Tibetans, like Uyghurs, like Mongols, they have been oppressed during Jiang Zemin times as well. And Jiang Zemin is a former leader of the country. According to the practice of the CCP, right now, the Chinese state media, government websites, all have to mourn him. Even the CCTV, the biggest state-run channel, is broadcasting everything in black and white. You know, it's the Soccer World Cup right now, and as the broadcast is in black and white, it became very hard to distinguish one team from another. So even the folks that didn't want to join the white paper protests are right now protesting the black and white broadcasting that doesn't let them watch soccer normally. It is really crazy. We live in the 21st century. Media is accessible and developed as never before, but the people in China still have to watch their soccer matches in black and white to mourn at a dictator. And it's not only the state media, shopping websites, internet platforms, everything is in black and white in China now. But what is very important, the death of Jiang Zemin didn't make Chinese people stop talking about how they hate Xi Jinping. Quite the contrary. Even those people who have been silent during the white paper protests started complaining about those ridiculous CCP policies now. Therefore, Xi Jinping also wants to prevent any mass gatherings after the death of Jiang Zemin that might lead to big protests like in 1989 after the death of Hu Yaobang. At the same time, he doesn't want to yield any ground to the protesters, even though the CCP agreed to relax some of the COVID restrictions, but in reality they're just pretending to give in temporarily. Once the people are not on the streets anymore, the restrictions will be imposed once again. Let's just wait and observe. Even if Xi Jinping agrees to relax some of the restrictions, with the current economic, political, and international problems China is facing, it won't lead to any changes in the situation that Xi Jinping forced China into. As Xi Jinping wants to stop the people from taking on the streets, he'll crack down the protest and will increase the public oppression measures, which will only lead to further dissent and the new protests. We can directly say that this is a confrontation between Xi Jinping and the Chinese people. If the people won't succeed, the government will crack down and will only double down on the oppressive policies. What Xi Jinping hopes for is to make China the new North Korea. For him, it is also the only way to consolidate the power in China. We can see it from the methods used to maintain stability to crack down on the white paper protests. In addition to making police officers look into the phones of the people walking close to the places of protest, the CCP government has also been very proficient in using high tech to follow the Chinese people. And some people who didn't participate in the protests themselves, but they just walked by close to the areas of protest, they have been recognized by the face recognition systems and later on contacted by the police. And of course, the warnings have been issued to those innocent people. At the same time, the CCP agents also spread phishing posts on the social media platforms, pretending to support the protests. Those who agree with the post and leave comments would receive warnings from the Chinese police. This is precisely because the Chinese media platforms are requiring you to register under your real name with your real ID. So the Chinese police can easily search for what everyone is writing online. Wang Shengsheng, a human rights lawyer in China, said, "When people go missing or are killed in ordinary criminal cases, we don't see the police using this high-tech tracking technology. This kind of sophisticated technology is only being used to crack down the protests. Therefore, dear Chinese viewers, you shouldn't give up any chances to demand your freedoms. In order not to become the new North Korea, you have to actively resist. And the means and methods of oppression will be more and more difficult to fight against." Currently, in addition to the overseas pro-democracy activists and students actively supporting the protesters, the international hacker organization Anonymous also announced to join in support of the white white paper revolution. On December 1st, it announced that it had attacked several Chinese government websites. Anonymous also published the identity card information of Han Baokun, director of Shanghai National Security Bureau, and the list of Shanghai police officers involved in cracking down on the protests. This anonymous organization hacked Hong Kong government website many times between 2014 and 2016. It also assisted in publishing the private information of the police officers involved in beating of the protesters during the 2019 anti-extradition protests. They also launched the cyber war against Russia when Russia invaded Ukraine, and sometimes they hacked the North Korean government websites. So, Anonymous put forward the following demands to the CCP government. Stop compulsory PCR tests and quarantine. Abolish the zero COVID. PCR tests and quarantine to be conducted voluntarily only. Allow the freedom of speech. Stop blocking the internet accounts. Tear down the Great Firewall. Let the people access the true information on the world in China. Release the arrested and drop the charges against them. Let the Chinese people have their passports. Open the borders. Chinese citizens should be allowed to go abroad freely. Abolish the amendments to Constitution done by Xi Jinping, making him chairman for life. Anonymous also published the following information on their Telegram account. Good luck, Chinese people. You're not alone. And this is what I want to tell my Chinese viewers. You are not alone. If you want to have your freedom back, the whole world will support you. But firstly, you'll have to have a will to fight for your freedom. It's about your survival. It's about your future, and the future of the world we live in. Talking about the international support, recently, all around Europe and the United States, there are rallies in support of the Chinese protesters. I have taken part in one of those in Warsaw.
Nie ma demokracji. Ludzie nie mają wolności. Teraz to się dzieje coraz gorzej. Rząd pozwala na wszystko. Ludzie są zamykani w swoich domach z powodu rzekomego pandemii. Nie mogą wyjść. Jeśli ktoś nie ma pozwolenia, siedzi w swoim domu jak w więzieniu.
So free China! Free Hong Kong! Stay away from Taiwan!
A huge protest like what happened in Hong Kong would also happen in China. And what happened to the Soviet Union in 1989 would also happen to China.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe, and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye bye.